Hello, everybody. You're listening to Alfred's American Movie Reviews. I'm your host, Alfred. Alfred's American Movie Reviews is brought to you by the company Alfred and Friends. To find out more about how you can invest in any one of the subsidiary companies of Alfred and Friends, go to alfredandfriends.com. There's something there for everybody. For this movie review update, I'd like to talk about the movie, The Old Guard. Now, this movie, unfortunately, it appears to be good, but it is based on a concept that, is altered from something we have seen before. When you look at the Smallville series, that's the Superman series, that was named Smallville, one of the longest running TV series of its kind, in a very, very long time. Smallville was very successful. But in one of the episodes, the episode that had Dean Cain come back, and Dean Cain was somebody who played Superman in a previous installment of the Superman series. When it comes to the TV episode type Superman, it was actually called The Adventures of Lois and Clark. Dean Cain starred in it with Terry Hatcher. Dean Cain came back in this episode, not as Superman, but he was playing a character that lives forever. I believe an alien of sorts. They did not really go into much of his origin, but this guy had lived through time, from man warriors and all of that. But it showed something very interesting. He lacked companionship. He wanted somebody that, would also live as long as he lived, because all his life, he has outgrown all his friends. The ones that didn't die, ended up getting old and dying. But he stays young forever and he can't be killed. So his story is different. So there's that loneliness that goes with that. So much power and all of that. And he keeps trying to hide his identity. And this is somebody that exists as a lone individual. However, the Old Guard takes from that concept and creates an elite team of fighters. So this is a team of fighters that have existed through history and has fought in different battles through history. Of course, with something like this, there are many problems that arise. When you create things like this, or vampire movies, where you are trying to say somebody has lived for such a long time, there are other things that have to come with it that a lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of movie writers do not consider. Like, you cannot create a world where somebody has had the advantage of not getting old and has lived for centuries. That person cannot exist today as a middle-class individual or as just a soldier. You see, that's a lot of time to build up wealth. That's a lot of time to build up ideas. That kind of person will be very unique and weird when it comes to their tastes. Because a lot of things that may be old to a lot of people are things that they live through. And there are a lot of things that they would also not want to jump on because they have seen it all before. They have seen so many changes. So, for example, if people are into cars, to them, let's say a new version of a car comes out or a new type of vehicle comes out, because they have seen different kinds of modes of transportation come and go, they will have old preferences. Their whole life will be very different when it comes to what you see when you look at them. You would actually see different things from different times, in their life. You could listen to their music and they'll be listening to something that to you is weird, but to them that is what they listen to, and that is what they get nostalgia from, because perhaps they even saw the person perform it. They could be listening to music that was created hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago. So many different things. There are so many things that come to play, but the most important thing is that they have more than enough time to build an empire. When you look at something like the Underworld series, where Alexander Coven, who was like the father of all vampires, the one who gave birth to the first vampire and the first lichen, considering how old he was and all the time he has had to exist, they created a great plot where he had an empire that was underground but was more powerful than the CIA, the FBI, and all the other organizations. And he had better technology than them. That is what is going to happen if somebody has the advantage of time and intelligence. You are talking about time, intelligence. So you cannot make that kind of person, even though they may be strong, they will not want to be a soldier. It's just like Magneto. Magneto is one of the strongest villains on X-Men, but he doesn't move, until he has to. Like he says, the pawns go first. So there are things like that you have to understand. Even though they may be very powerful, by now they would have built such strong networks. So there are many things about that in itself that doesn't make sense. It now brings to question the intelligence of the individuals. You cannot have the advantage of not going young, not getting older. You are young forever, and you also cannot die. And what have you degraded yourself to be? To be a mercenary, or to form an elite team of fighters. It may look good in a movie, but it doesn't make any intellectual sense. It's very weird. It's you've lived for how long? You've seen all different kinds of wars, and in all that time, it never occurred to you to build yourself up. You were doing mercenary work all forever, and now you are now in a situation where there are certain people in the US military or whatever that are hunting you down and are trying to weaponize you. How come you are not more powerful than the US military? Because technically you were there when the US was being founded. What were you doing then? Didn't you ever grow? Didn't you ever learn? Didn't you ever read? So there is all that issue that goes with the old guard. So it is unfortunate a lot of people who are making things like this that deal with vampires, werewolves, or creatures that are supposed to live for long. You have to bring that into play, and you also have to bring the question of torture of living that long. Because it may sound good, but a lot of people, if you have eternal life without Christ, honestly, it doesn't make sense. And you begin to see a lot of things about it that will bring many questions. A lot of people will view that as a curse. And a lot of people in this movie are acting like if it is new to them. It is not well done when it comes to that aspect. But when it comes to other things, this kind of movie is actually going to, the way it was done, it will sell. A lot of people are going to like it, and it is certainly an improvement, especially when you consider the SJW direction that a lot of Hollywood movies have been going to. That direction. Now this movie still goes in that SJW direction, because the star is basically a Karen when it comes to her appearance, or a lady with short hair, and then it has that unnecessary feminist edge, which a lot of people will see, or at least that's what most people will think about. Now, if this movie was made many years ago, that will not be the case. If it was made before this feminist SJW nonsense, that is not what will come to people's mind. But because of it, and with the hairstyle, that is where people's minds will go to. And naturally, they have it's centered upon a black woman as a new person who joins this group of people who are mercenaries and can't die and are living forever, or are difficult to kill, whatever the case is. All of that, it is very unfortunate. And the way it is forced, the way black people appear in storylines that does not look natural, just to appeal to the SJW nonsense of let black women be here and all this representation and all this nonsense of equity, So that being said, the movie is surprisingly better than the nonsense that have been made in recent years, So That is very interesting. It is somewhat unfortunate because I actually like Hollywood to be making nonsense. The more nonsense they make, the more vulnerable they become. To someone like me to create movies to go in and replace them. But we'll still have to make movies go in and replace and swallow up all of Hollywood. This is something that is very important. It's very important that movies are made with a Christian message. Keep in mind that all movies have a message. And if something does not have the light, which is Christ, then all that is there is darkness, because darkness is just a place where light is absent. So right now, whether you like it or not, Hollywood and every other form of entertainment and every platform or world of entertainment that leaves out Christ, and I'm talking about the true Christ, this gospel. There is such a thing as this gospel. There are different versions of the gospel, but there is this gospel. There is the gospel of the kingdom, the gospel that Jesus preached. There are so many versions of it now that are man-made and man-created. The Bible speaks of doctrines of men, and old wise fables, and things that we should stay away from. People making up stuff. There's a lot of stuff that has been made up of, so not that. The gospel has to be preached, in different forms of entertainment, and this is something that we must do. Don't just fold your arms and expect it to be done, and say that somebody else will do it or God will take care of it. No, God wants you to do it. Take the gospel as your responsibility. Take it as though if you do not do anything about it, nobody would. Let it be up to you. Act like you are the only person who has been given the mandate, even though you are going to preach and get everyone involved. Take the responsibility of the gospel, getting into every nook and cranny of society and every nook and cranny of this world. Take that responsibility upon you. Take that mission upon yourself, because that is the mission that you have been given. And this is what separates great men from mere men. That being said, if you would like to work with us, when it comes to making movies and making an impact in entertainment, reach out to us, on alfredandfriends.com. We are looking forward to hearing from you. So that is it for today. Thank you and God bless you.